So thanks, Al. So I'm here to talk about my 2,660-mile run from John O'Groats at the far north of Scotland all the way to the Sahara Desert. I managed that over 78 days, but today I think I've got 400 seconds to talk about it. Which should actually be okay, because all I really did was actually run, eat, sleep and admire the views, so it'll be fine. Born to Run's it's a fantastic book. What it describes is how us as Homo sapiens prevailed over the Neanderthals. They were actually much faster, they were smarter and they're quicker than us. But we had the ability to hunt and run for hours and hours to chase woolly mammoths. So that's eventually actually how we survived. William Tan was the number one reason I actually got into doing adventures. William I looked after when I was actually working at the North Pole. And he's the only man ever to have actually done a wheelchair marathon at the North Pole itself. And I can't tell you how inspiring and how difficult this must have been for him. And just to follow his adventure and the actual sense of achievement he got from it actually made me just think I have to get out there and do some things for myself. If anyone is actually ever looking to run from John O'Groats to the Sahara, I've still got the maps and you're welcome to it. But I would certainly not recommend going and running 250 kilometres through the Indonesian jungle the week before. The reason I don't advise it is not for the snakes and whatever, but certainly if you pick up a dose of diarrhea, it makes a bit of an uncomfortable run. This is a map which shows the route that I took. First of all, I actually started off in John O'Groats, came down through the Great Glen Way, West Highland Way, saw all the pretty parts of Scotland, moved down to England, sorry Al, not quite so pretty, moved to France, Spain and eventually ended up in Morocco. The 8th of November 2010 was a glorious day in John O'Groats. There was a severe weather warning out for the whole of North Scotland. It was a 45-mile-an-hour headwind that day. And between that and the half-hourly visits to the toilet, it was pretty uncomfortable. This is a much better day. The reasons I actually did this particular challenge were, first of all, to raise as much money as I could for a charity called the Yama Trust to a volunteer with in Mongolia. But the second was also to get as many folk involved as possible and to emphasise the value of getting involved in adventure and activity. And I was really grateful to have 150 folk join me in the West Highland Way on this day, and 1,000 folk join me in general. Yeah, following that, basically we hit the snow. It was the wildest winter in recent memory in Britain, and I think I hit 18 consecutive days of snow. I don't know whether it was my reward for passing my exam, which I sat in Edinburgh on the way through, but I was greeted with that basically for 18 consecutive days, and I think this contributed to a lot of the injuries that I got. As the subject of some research by Coventry University, found out that I had some injuries on 70 out of 78 days. I eventually made myself anemic. I managed to avoid frostbite, but I think that's the only thing that I got away with. The enthusiasm of everyone that I met was just simply incredible. It was brilliant. Never more so than when you've got TV cameras and kids around you. It's just amazing. But actually I got a lot out of that interaction, and with all the different groups that I met on the way down. For example, they gave me loads of food. They gave me a warm hat, which is brilliant for subsequent days to come, especially down in London. And it made you just think that running is actually by far the simplest form of transport. All you do is just put one foot in front of the other and continue until you reach the Sahara. Heathrow was closed, Gatwick was closed, none of the trains were working. So after my run, I just popped into the Parliamentary Bar, which is £2.40 a pint, and if anyone's ever in London, it's the cheapest pint you'll get. I must admit I cheated. I actually didn't swim across the channel, but instead I actually took the ferry. And France was much the same, except for the fact that my French is so awful that I got myself lost on several occasions. The snow was still there, and a more positive thing about France is the food is fantastic, and I don't know if it's any better than Scotland, but I would say that pain au chocolat and baguettes and stuff like that went down a treat. This is a slide from France. No, it's not. It's actually Spain, isn't it? I'd made it over the Pyrenees by then, and it's just one big mountain, Spain. It's the second most mountainous country in Europe, and where are the mountains, there are views, and it was just incredible. The other good thing about it was that I caught up with Jenny, my fiancée, who came out with me for 3 weeks and cooked me some food, including Christmas dinner. I was eating on average about 7,800 calories a day, which is equivalent to what 3 average men need to eat. And that could be all sorts of things. It could constitute 150 Weetabix, it could be 3.5 kilos of bread or whatever. But I managed to get there and I didn't actually lose any weight throughout. This is a picture of myself and my mum in the actual camper van, which served as base camp and also my quarters. You can see my computer there for updating Twitter. I've also got several rations of food and a big massive box of food in there, and basically the bed slid out, and that's where I stayed for 7 to 8 days, in between staying in some hotels to dry out. Didn't really need to dry out in the Sahara Desert. You don't get very much in the way of rain there. It's just a wonderful and diverse country, and I think it's basically what adventure was all about. Several fairly embarrassing things happened. I got some more diarrhea. I also got passed by some donkeys and some 6-year-olds and things such as that. And eventually ended up with Achilles tendons that looked like sticks of rhubarb, and took a good couple of months to settle down. Nothing really worked for that. I mean, I tried painkillers, I tried physiotherapy, massages, but eventually the only thing that actually worked as painkillers were the views, which are amazing. It's not the easiest place in the world to run through, but it's certainly one of the most beautiful. Don't know if anyone knows who this old boy is. It's actually Leonardo da Vinci. The reason I show this slide is not out of my admiration for him, but he did actually say one pretty clever thing, which was that the human foot is a masterpiece of engineering and it's a work of art. And I would definitely take his point that the human foot is a masterpiece of engineering, but a work of art these are not. That's what the Sahara Desert does to your feet. I'm sure that Al can remember this. They're not actually mine. It also goes to show that really good expeditions require a fair bit of planning to avoid things like that. And you have to wear gaiters in your feet and avoid it, and make sure that you're drinking 12 litres a day and all the other things that the Sahara throws at you. This is the end of my challenge. I'd reached it. I managed to achieve my goals of running that distance, and I loved it. And suppose what it made me think was about William and my experience at the North Pole with him and what I was capable of, and just to think that myself and a lot of the other guys that are going to speak here tonight are really just normal guys, and the challenge is to make you guys aware that these things are possible and to get out and do them. Thanks so much.